wouldn't say the 42% was a poor performance considering the exigencies of that time. Recall that in 2023, when my predecessor was here between January and September 14th when I took over, we were in a transition period. There was an election coming up. There was the currency crisis occasioned by the CBN policy. All this affected trade, and therefore, if my person here then didn't achieve so much, the person should be blamed. I wouldn't call it poor performance. However, yes, I did make a promise when I took over that I was going to raise the bar, because the fact is that we met the revenue then at 42%, and I promised to take it to 100%. Well, we did not take it to 100%, but we were very close to that. We achieved 98%, which was a significant milestone. By the end of the year, we were able to achieve 716 billion, 478 million, which was quite significant. And the question then is, how did we achieve that? The first thing I did was to get the buy-in of the officers themselves. And we told them that with a new management in customs, and with the policy trust of the Inspector General of Customs, and the MFR, that we need not disappoint ourselves. Don't forget that we are coming from a system where we had a non-custom officer for 8 years at the helm of affairs, and he performed well. Now, it would have been almost anathema to say that a career custom officer took over, and then rather than build on the performance of his predecessor, we backslided. So it became a very big challenge. So that transition period, both the transition from the federal government political arena to the transition within customs itself, officers needed to be told that they have a very big task to do. So the first thing I did was to motivate the officers and make them get aligned with the policy trust of the new CG. Having done that, I rallied around the stakeholders. From my past experience, I discovered that you needed to categorize the stakeholders into two. There were those who voluntarily want to pay their duty. There are those who don't pay appropriate duty because of ignorance and lack of understanding of the policy of the federal government and the interpretation of those policies. But there are those who also recalcitrant, who don't want to pay at all, no matter what they do. So what I did was to bring all of them together. For those that were already paying voluntarily, we're encouraging them so much. For those that were not paying out of ignorance and understanding of the policies and instruments of government, we started a backing on capacity building of such stakeholders. Then for those that were recalcitrant, we descended heavily on them, were seizing their goods, and then that made some people to shape up. But one of the key things that we did was to facilitate trade. And what did we do in that aspect? Recall that we introduced 24 hours cargo clearance in Tinkan Port. And I also said that the era of Owambe weekends in the port is over. So I encouraged both officers and stakeholders to come to work on Saturdays and Sundays. So those little man hours that used to be lost, we tried to gain them back, and it contributed a lot. And like you said, don't forget that I have been around in the system, first as public relations officer of the zone, and then for the command in Apapa. And having witnessed the port concession and all the transformations in customs and all the modernization efforts, I knew the keys and the goals to plug for us to achieve maximum, embracing by stakeholders and every other person alike. It wasn't an easy task, considering the fact that during that period, cargo throughput dropped. So what did we do? We said, okay, from the little cargo we have, block all loopholes for revenue leakages through factory facilitation. And sir, let me tell you one thing that I discovered. An agent and importer is not scared of paying duty. They are not. What they are scared of is delays. And therefore, we try to remove every encumbrance that will cause delay in the system. One of the things we did was to clear this road that was blocked for several years, almost 13 years. it was impossible to pass through. So it wasn't facilitating trade. So investors' confidence in the port, particularly Tinker, got lost. Our core area of competency are articles of Chapter 87, vehicles. And therefore, people that were importing vehicles couldn't access the place. It became almost impossible. But the moment that we were able to get our vehicles to be cleared from the port, because of this road that was opened, our revenue started improving. People that were shipping vehicles hitherto, who would have loved to pass through other routes, now their confidence was restored in Tinker. And to the glory of God, we got to where we are today. Let me start by saying that every custom environment is a very dynamic environment. Custom processes are very, very dynamic, just like international trade. The moment you are sleeping in Lagos, somebody is awake in China. When China is sleeping, Europe is awake. So the hub, the wheels of the port is always rolling. And therefore, when we came to Tinker, we wouldn't say that our predecessor didn't do very well. They created a platform for us to also perform. But then, I'm a scientist, so the first thing I do anywhere I do is to improve on whatever that I lay my hands on. I mean, it's just like creation. You know, everything you meet, you are supposed to improve on it. God started that way. He did one thing, then he kept improving over the days, and then so every scientist leverages on that wherever you go to a place, you must improve. So when we came to Tinker, yes, Tinker had this notorious label of being a place where anything can happen. And we tried to justify that. Everybody, stakeholders, officers, and society were endorsing it. So it is in Tinker, that's what we do in Tinker. Oh, you know it's a rural environment. One car, 20 agents will follow it, learn to accommodate them. But then, nobody calls his nose within his face. I said, I'm not going to endorse that. I'm not going to be part of it. Similar to what we did in Ogun State when I was area controller there, where it was said that, well, Ogun is a war zone. And I told them, no, Ogun is a trade zone. I won't accept the appellation of Ogun being a war zone. So the first thing I did was to meet traditional rulers, and I changed the name of Ogun Command, the Gateway Command. The moment we did that, I met traditional rulers and told them that I'm not going to kill any person. FO is not going to kill any person. And again, don't kill our officers. So this appellation of war zone should stop. This is a trade zone. So we did something in Tinker. When people said, oh, it is Tinker, that's how we do it in Tinker, anything goes. I told them that I'm not going to accept the appellation of anything goes. This is a trade facilitation environment. It is a corporate environment. So one of the things we did was to institute a corporate governance procedure for Tinker, both for officers and for the traders themselves, the stakeholders. I started engaging with them. Like I told you earlier, we categorize them. The very compliant traders, the non-compliant ones out of ignorance, and the obstinate ones. The obstinate ones, we dealt heavily with them. We were making seizures, we were dealing with them. But one thing we did was to say, okay, since we're looking for revenue, if the offended items are trade items, well, somehow we collected PN from them. But if there are items that will harm national security and image of the country, like drugs and arms, we started heavily on them.